So today, we've gone over how to do some product business, we've gone over some idea generation, we've gone over how to establish credibility, how to position yourself to a certain degree. Now I want to talk about, from my perspective, sort of the 4 types of lifestyle entrepreneur business. And as a side note, I had you bring your books because we were unable to get a whiteboard, but I want to be able to reference at least what I'm talking about here. And so what we're going to be going over today starts on page 86. And really, the way I see it, there's sort of this gradient. And there's 2 axes. And I'll just talk about what I consider each of the quadrants of these 4 types of lifestyle entrepreneur business. And on the one hand, so it's sort of a type 1 business, as I call it, is like an online customized type of business. So online custom has the connotation of delivering the product or service online and doing it in a way that's customized to each customer that you engage with. And so in the book, for anybody that hasn't seen it yet, I use a business that I've started to sort of illustrate each of these examples, and also a framework that I'll teach sometime before the end of this week, which I call the vision map, vision map framework, where map is mission, actions, and product. And so I lay out sort of the vision map for each of these 4 types of business. And so today I want to start to fill some color in on the different tactics and sort of the high-level strategies, so you can take the ideas that have been percolating and start to see which type or which hybrid combination of types would fit best to bring your idea to life and make it a functioning business. So for an online customized type of business, I'll talk through quickly sort of the example from one of my own business experiences, which was a company called Village Green Energy. Village Green Energy was founded on the premise that concerned individuals about their impact of their energy usage, their electricity usage on the environment, and businesses that wanted to lay claim to, say, being like powered by green energy, to provide them a way to do so that was specific to their situation. And so the actual product that the business provided was we'd source wholesale, it was called renewable energy credits. So we'd buy wholesale power rights from solar energy generators, biogas generators, and what else? A couple other types of green energy generators in wholesale blocks represented by, say, like 10 megawatt hours. And the specifics of it aren't totally relevant right here. But then we set up a carbon calculator or an energy impact calculator on our website where you could go in, and we had calculations that were backed up by government data and other third-party validation of saying, like, square foot per house by state and even by city has an average electricity usage of X. And so when we had the user go in, or when they came in and they sort of self-directed and said, okay, I live in a 1,200 square foot house, I drive this specific brand of car, here's some of the other lifestyle choices I make, how much I travel, etc. And then it would all calculate down to a total energy impact. And then, of course, we had a customized amount of a renewable energy certificate that we'd sell them. So say, look, you can offset your lifestyle for the year for this price, and then the actual product that we'd send to them was like a certificate that showed exactly where their power was generated. And the nature of renewable energy certificates was such that only one person could lay claim to that amount of power. And so it was the effect of having a direct connection from, say, a solar installation in the desert of Nevada to your house or business. And so going back, the description of this type of business as a type 1 online custom type of business was that each user has their own personalized experience. Now, some of the benefits of this was that by having a customized experience, you get more of a personalized feel of the brand, or rather, going onto the website and saying, oh, wow, here's my specific car that I drive, this is the size house I live in, etc. And then you could actually purchase that, and then it would be fulfilled to your name. And so we also did this for business. For the business, the benefit to them was having some like marketing collateral. So if it was a restaurant, we'd actually underwrite the cost of producing some cards that they could set on tables, give them a framed plaque they could hang on the wall, and that the way they could communicate to their customers the clean energy purchasing decision that they had made. So that's just one example, but for a type 1, this is setting up some type of an online transaction that's personalized to each customer. And there's other examples of this as well. For example, if you're familiar with like the Build-A-Bear workshop, right? You can go on and you take the type of bear and then you give it like a certain hat and a certain clothes. Then ultimately you check out and you get this customized or personalized product sent to you that you've been able to create online in a way that's specific to you. So then the next type, in type 2, would be an online standard type of business. And so the online, again, is that this transaction is taking place online, or the actual product delivery is facilitated through the internet. And this one is sort of the, in some ways, the easiest to access type of business, especially for sort of first-time entrepreneurs, in the sense that you've got your website, but then every purchasing decision is either I want what they have to offer or not. And it's not tailored to your own experience. So there's a number of examples of products that can be used that are representative of this type 2. Ebook, DVDs, P90X would fit into this, information products, anything that you can go and educate yourself on what the product is, and then you either choose to buy it or not, but it's not customized really to the end user in any way. And then of course delivered, information products would be a download, or if it's a physical product, something like this would be if you do a monthly recurring billing for nutritional supplements, they send it to your house every month. Well, it's the same type of product, and then you either choose to buy it or you don't. This is sort of a type 2 type of business. The example I use in there for my business, which is USB Superstore, really was a little bit, I think it's more accurate now. If I were to do this again, I'd probably put like my actual book as the type 2, but USB Superstore was you go on, you choose the type of product style that you want, the quantity, and then it gets produced and sent to you, but there was a little bit of customization in there. So these are sort of like business archetypes or types, and really your actual company or your business itself can be some combination or some hybrid. So if I had a white paper here, I'd show these as a graph, and then you could sort of plot where on the graph your business idea would fall. Is it 100% customized for each individual user with a complete online delivery? Or is it only one type of product, like an ebook, and you buy it or you don't, and it's delivered online as sort of a type 2 extreme? Now in the lower 2 quadrants would be an offline customized experience. And in this case, offline is just shorthand for saying that the actual delivery of the product or service is done in person or personally. So while it could be facilitated through the internet, this is something like consulting, coaching, any type of advisory role where you're either sitting down one-to-one or you're doing like a video teleconference or a teleseminar or something that's personalized to the customer's situation, but that you can still actually inform yourself and make a purchasing decision online. So it fits within this lifestyle entrepreneur business framework, but the actual delivery of the product or the service that you're buying is personalized to each person. So the example I used there was like consulting and or investment banking, where you'd essentially, tailor each interaction with the client to their specific needs. And then lastly, there's what I call the type 4 business, which is like an offline standard or in-person standardized delivery of a product or service. And so the example I used here was for, say, my former band. Every time we'd go and play a show, we weren't rewriting a whole album's worth of material before we go up and play each show, right? We'd have our set, maybe with a few variations, but we're essentially delivering the same experience, delivering the same performance each time that we had an engagement. And I've come to realize recently from getting to know a number of people in multi-level marketing that that's sort of a similar type of type 4 business, in the sense that you know your information about your product, you know the offer you have, then you're having a one-on-one conversation, you're having a personalized discussion with your prospect or your client, but it's essentially the same delivery each time. You're not customizing the offer to each customer or client's situation, circumstance, or wants and needs. And so within these 4 types of lifestyle entrepreneur business, you can sort of, I guess my recommendation would be to see which one suits your personality best. And the whole section in this book is what's your type, in the sense that which type of business most resonates with you and your personality. And then my recommendation would be to like plant a flag and start in one specific area. So for example, if you're doing like something that's health and nutrition related, maybe you start with a type 2, an information product, or you have some customized, let's say, you know, like we were talking to Eric about one of his ideas, creating a blend of cereal and then offering that to the customer, and then they could say buy it on a weekly basis or a monthly basis delivered to their door. And once you get established in one first type of business that's right for you, then you can branch out and at least be aware of the other auxiliary types of products or service, or additional, you know, products or services that you can offer. So if you started with recurring monthly or weekly delivery of a singular type of product, then maybe you can have an add-on or an upsell that would be like a custom diet creation or a custom consultation with the client. And that would be more of like, you know, a type 1 or a type 3, where you're delivering a customized experience to them, either online through some technology that's been configured, where they tell you, you know, the wants and goals and the allergies or whatnot, and then it spits out a recommendation and like maybe creates a custom PDF ebook specific to the information they put in. Or if it would be a type 3, where you have, you know, a video teleconference, or actually sit down, understand their specific situation, and then make recommendations. So if you cover, you know, a few of these bases, then your business can address a wider potential addressable market. And you can, it's at least, if nothing else, gives you a framework for thinking about how you want to be of service to your potential customers and the way in which resonates best with you. So for somebody that wants to have sort of a really arm's length distance from their business, meaning it's set up as a system and it runs on its own, then something like a type 2, where you spend a lot of the time creating a product that fits a market need, and then having everything set up so that it's available to be purchased online, but then you actually aren't necessarily interacting with any customer at all, or just on an as-needed basis for some kind of customer service support. So it lives online and operates without you. But say you're more of a personable type of entrepreneur, and you want to be engaging with people and getting into their world a little bit more and understanding their situation and offering your own solutions, then starting from a place like type 3 is sort of an offline or in-person customized delivery. Like when we were talking, Huzefa, like your initial idea was doing math tutoring. So actually working with students one-on-one and understanding their specific situation and then giving them tutoring, and just essentially another way of saying consulting. And so wherever you start, you can then look at this quadrant and say, well, where else could I expand? Where's the opportunities to do something in a different quadrant, so to speak, and expand the overall offerings that your business has? And so, you know, I think of these 4 types of business, and they're not all online in the sense that they're all functioning as a standalone system, like 4-hour work week, totally arm's length. But I think this is more representative of how certain people and their personalities can be leveraged into providing value or products or services in a way that reflects their personality and is still in line with the bigger picture of taking the things you're interested in and passionate about and turning them into businesses. Each one of these, even if you're doing a in-person consultation, would still, of course, have a website and leverage some of the technologies that we use to build and develop it, right? So having a web presence and being able to make a sale online, or at least book an appointment and inform the customer of what you have to offer, that's consistent throughout all of them. But these types describe the way that the product or service is delivered and how the customer experiences it. So on the left side of the quadrant, types 1 and 3 is personalized, customized. On the right side, it's standardized. On the top, it's an online delivery, whether it's an ebook download or a calculator that ultimately has some customized product that they purchase and then receive. And on the bottom 2 quadrants, it's an in-person and a more personalized experience that they have with your brand, with your business. Let me pause for a moment and see, does anybody have any questions about these 4 types, or does that start to generate any ideas or flip the light bulb on for some of the ideas you may have been thinking of and some of the potential opportunities to expand into another arena based on that initial starting point?
Reinforces to me that I only want a type 2, like kind of 4-hour work week business. I don't mind starting with a few others if that's what it takes to develop a type 2, like if it required a lot more R&D or something like that. But yeah, it helps reinforce like looking at the work required on some of these others, just kind of like brings it back to my original goal.
Excuse me. How many people have read the 4-Hour Work Week? Yeah. How many people think that that type of business resonates with you the most, where you sort of have an automated system in place? Yeah, that's sort of like where type 2 lives. How many people feel more like they'd want to have a personalized experience or interact directly one-on-one with the customer? Right? I think your business is sort of set up that way, or before it became, you know, like a managerial run, right? You're having like, I'd say that's more of like a type 4, where you're doing like direct selling, but it's the same product, and you're sort of going through the same sales process to see if that product is right for them, as opposed to tailoring it or doing a custom cosmetics blend for each client. And so this is something that I want you guys to think through, because I'm here for the rest of this week. And my goal by the time, you know, Friday rolls around is that you've got the initial set of ideas that we started to generate, and that you start to get an idea for where your starting point would be and have a basic conception of how you could build and develop the web presence and get your business leveraged into reality, meaning you could actually make some sale online by using the tools like Elance and some of the other technologies that are available. And then ideally, we've got the basis for an idea and a business that's right for you that we can develop over the course of the few weeks that you'll be in the program, but I won't be here in person to work with you. So we can set up an online workroom and have a way to communicate back and forth online. So that would be sort of like a type 1 type of service delivery. And develop your idea to the point where when I arrive back in Sweden towards the end of the program, maybe you've started to take some of the first steps, or you've gotten some website concepts developed, or maybe you've even put together a website and are getting close to a point where you could launch it. And then we can sort of take it across the finish line, or at least pick the ball back up when I'm here in person to work with you on the tail end of the program. Now, that said, I know, you know, a lot of the time you may be on a yacht for a week, you may be doing a road trip. You may not be able to focus that much extra energy on developing the business. So at least if it's getting the ideas flowing in your mind and we have an open dialogue, sometimes I find this takes, you know, a couple months until they start to ground, and then you really get a firm idea of where you want to go. So those are some of the main concepts I wanted to get across to you today, and maybe now we can have a little open forum Q&A for anything you guys are thinking about from what I've covered this week before we start to sort of tie this off so that you can get over to the Cosmo on time. So if anybody wants sort of the group's attention or focus on an idea you have, we can do like a mini hot seat, anybody's idea, or if you have specific questions for me on the things that you've been thinking about and the ideas I've been sharing with you, this would be a good time to ask them while we're all here in the room. And if, yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure, like, if you've probably covered this or something, but I'm guessing it happens, like, it's for a couple of other ideas of some of the other boys. But say you're wanting to do something or set up a business, but there's obviously like other similar businesses already online. How would you differentiate yourself to the maximum as possible, especially since you wouldn't necessarily be classified as one of those experts that you were talking about? Like, how would you push yourself beyond, yeah, I guess.
Do you have a specific case in mind?
Yeah, actually, let's say.
Or saying, how do you more establish yourself as an authority figure if you're not one currently?
Yeah. Can I piggyback?
Yeah, go ahead.
Along the same lines, I guess what you do, and if you could answer this as well as, can you have the exact same product and quality and not have any additional real added benefit, but just have it marketed really well by some guy like Ali that goes out and does the social stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean, sure. Think, does McDonald's have the best hamburger in the world?
Yeah.
Right? Is Coca-Cola the best beverage that there is out there? I think a lot of times, good ideas can die because of a lack of creative marketing and a lack of consistent focus on getting the product out, as well as iterating and getting feedback and then pushing that into the next iteration, or being open to upgrading your idea as you go along. And in terms of how to establish credibility, one is just starting to take action. And even as you begin, it's like, you saw me teaching this last year. That was actually the first time I taught any of this stuff in a group format. And you came up, you're like, man, become a better presenter. You're doing this. You said it was like a night and day difference. And guess what I've been doing for the last year? I've been working on this. I've been focusing on it, rewriting the book, revising the content, working with people in different contexts. So it was one-on-one, in group, online, partnering up and doing development projects on Elance together with clients. And ultimately, it started to give me the experience and more the credibility by having other reference experiences to be more and more closer to the place that I ultimately want to be, which is to be able to tailor, the information that I have and the experience I have to fit a broad swath of the population's needs when they're thinking about going down a path of entrepreneurship. Does that answer your question? And then, I could reflect back and say, again, what were the two polarities for being sort of an expert, but even just being a credible, entrepreneur? On the one hand, there was results, right? So if you don't have the results yet, then you can go out and start to get the information from other people that have them. And that's starting to do the research and feeding that back through to your audience. And I know a number of people that do this, people that have blogs, anybody that's started to build a business by aggregating other thought leaders or bringing other people together and say just interviewing them. Has anybody here heard of Mixergy? Nobody? See, it's funny because I hadn't heard of them a year ago either, but there's this guy who was himself an entrepreneur, and he was actually fairly successful, named, I think, Andrew Warner. But then he wanted to really go to the extreme of being a research sort of expert, and he just started interviewing every entrepreneur that he could find. So he set up a $25 a month subscription program, and like every two times a week or so, he'd publish an interview with some other entrepreneur. He was asking him many of the same questions, but over the course of a year, he built up 400 or 500 interviews, and they're all inside of a membership portal. So he was actually a results expert. He had built up, a business that was like $10 or $20 million in size. He didn't even publicize that when he was starting Mixergy because he wanted to go to the other end and just gather up information from as many different sources as possible, and then those combined put them in a position to get, conference speaking spots, doing keynotes, being featured on panels at other entrepreneur-related conventions, because then he started to bring in his own results and combining the experiences that he had with the now hundreds of references that he had gone out and interviewed, and positioned himself really as a thought leader. And still, not many people have heard of him, but if you've got like 10,000 subscribers at $25 a month, you can do the math, and then you've sort of built a lucrative business, which is, even though he did have the results, started from a place of not leveraging those to be a credible thought leader or an expert in the space. So I think you can really come at it from both sides. Cool.
So I'm looking at starting something related to poker. I'd like to sell poker card protectors. I've done a bit of research on it. I'm just wondering if there's a big enough market to support it, and if it would cost too much to advertise through Google. So there's like 15,000 searches a month, but it says that the competition is high. But when you do the Google search, there's only like 2 main websites, and it's fairly high markup. You can get these card protectors for like 50 cents to $1, and it looks like they're selling them for about $20 to $50.
Yeah, so actually I'm glad that you brought that up about the advertising competition. So let me speak to that for a second. Part of the market validation exercise that we did a few days ago, where we did the search and we saw on the front end, like on the search results page, how many advertisers were there and whether or not they were focused specifically on the industry, or whether the product that you were searching for was one part of a much, much broader product mix. Like, for example, a Walmart or a PetSmart versus a very niche focused like dog products company. But on the back end, which we didn't really talk about, is if you go into like Google AdWords and you do, I think it's either the keyword tool, and there's one other one that's right next to it. I always forget the name. But wherever you can do searches for specific keywords and see the global monthly searches, then the advertiser competition, actually what you would want is probably 8,000 to 10,000 global monthly searches and high advertising competition. And that may sound counterintuitive, but think of it this way. If you had like 100,000 global monthly searches and low advertising competition, what that tells me is that it's probably like an informational site. So like maybe eHow or Wikipedia or something that's just giving information, but it's not actually transaction focused. It's not selling something. So there's a lot of people looking for it, but it's not something that people are willing to pay for to get in front of them at the time that they're looking for it. Now when you have high competition, even in the lower range of under, or even as low as like 5,000 global monthly searches, high competition means that, well, as it describes, right, there's a lot of advertisers that are willing to pay to be in front of you at that time, and that's actually an indication of a market opportunity. That, of course, then tells you that you'd want to get focused on optimizing your site to speak specifically to that demographic of people that's searching for the information, so that you're not living forever in the space of advertising on the top or on the right-hand side of the search results, but as quick as possible moving up and being as visible as possible in the organic search results, both for that term specifically and for a variety of other terms that are focused on the same general space. So if you think of what would be one search term that you search for, would it be poker card protectors?
Yeah, poker card protectors.
And so something like, it's either the keyword tool or that other one that gives you, if you plug in one term, it gives you a suggestion of like 20 or 30 others, and it shows you the global monthly searches and the advertising competition for those. Then you can start to see the total space in terms of the total ecosystem of searches that people are doing that are focused on that. So if it's poker card protectors, or maybe it's blackjack card protectors as a variation. Maybe it's card protectors as sort of an apex keyword, and then it's appended with different variations that people may search for based on their circumstance, but it's really the same product that could be used in a few different varieties. I mean, it's casino card protectors or gambling card protectors. And if you just start to generate different ideas and plug those in and see the variations that come up, then ultimately you want to find the, say, 10 to 15 search terms that have the highest global monthly search and medium or preferably high advertising competition. And that forms a list of the search terms that you want to optimize your website for, so that you can at least cast a net across the 10, 15 or so search terms that the majority of people are looking for and that advertisers are competing for, and ideally get positioned in the search results for those, and then focus some of the messaging on the website towards those 10 or 15 terms throughout the text. Would you guys find it useful to do a talk on search engine optimization?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, my balance is to find out like how much high-level conceptual stuff to share, and then how much really like tactical, hands-on, specific stuff to share. So just give me the feedback. I'll tailor it.
Can you address like the outsourcing? I mean, you mentioned you had a company like for $400 or $500. They provided some services. Can you tie that in? Like,
Yeah, great. Everything's still rolling there?
Yeah.
Okay, great. You're the man.
I told you.
You would know. It's still 20 minutes ago and I'm really shy. I didn't know how to say it.
Oh, you were just waiting until I was done talking to tell me that it totally stopped recording.
No, we're still good.
Can you grab a couple pics from the back, babe? My phone's in the other room. Okay, so let's switch gears here for a second, and I do want to talk about, let's do maybe 10, 15 minutes on search engine optimization strategy, and then, what was your question, Brad?
Just
outsourcing and how to get people. Okay, great. Yeah, go ahead.
Something. With SEO, it's not like, with the other stuff you talked about on Elance, with like editing, creating a URL, that sort of stuff, it's really easy to set that and then receive it. But with SEO, there's obviously like, I guess, lead time involved. So you could be paying someone for like, say, 2 months, and then the results are obviously, you've got to wait for them. So with regards to that, would you do that differently in terms of looking for someone that you would outsource for that?
Yeah. I'll answer that in the course of this short little talk. No, it's totally relevant, actually. So here's my feelings on search engine optimization. One, you got to do it as you're developing your website. And ideally, you want your search engine optimization strategy in place as you publish the site. And so let me explain that there's two parts of search engine optimization from my perspective. There's on-site SEO, and then there's off-site SEO. On-site describes how your website is coded. And specifically, for anybody that's ever looked at code, a website's broken into two components. There's the head, and then there's the body. So the body is what's visible when you're looking at a web page. The head is information that's both talking to the search engines, or it's telling search engine what it's about, and it's also a place where you can load different code that interacts with your website, for example, Google Analytics, right? So the head is like a container where you can give information, which is called sort of metadata, about the site. Don't let the technical terms throw you off, because it's really not that complicated. So there's maybe 3 or 4 main components of on-site SEO. One, I think one of the most valuable, if not the most valuable, is the actual domain that you have. So that's why when you gave the talk, and you say if you identify the most competitive search term, then you can buy the domain that is that search term. Then you've got a good leg up on getting found and being in the organic search results. So that's the one really visible element that goes in the head of a website, is that, you got the domain. And then the title is what you see on the top of the browser window. It's not in the URL bar, it's not actually in the window, but it's on the very, very top of the window itself. That's the title of the page. So that's a good place to load 2 or 3 SEO terms. And the way I think of SEO is having like apex keywords. So for Brandon's idea, card protectors is an apex keyword. And then there's other terms that are auxiliary around that, like poker card protectors, or buy poker card protectors, or baccarat card protectors, whatever the variations may be for that space. So if you can anchor yourself with the 3 or 4 apex keywords, include them in your title, such as card protector pros dash poker card protectors, blackjack card protectors, and casino card protector resources, then maybe that's the title of your page, and those are the 3 main apex keywords that you want to target. So then you've got what's called the meta keywords. And this is a place where you code in generally 5 to 7 terms, I think is what's acceptable now. There was a whole phase where people would just stack like 20 or 30, but search engines caught on and realized that that was just sort of like almost the equivalent of spam. So if you got 5 to 7 descriptive terms, these aren't just single words, delineated by commas, in your meta keywords section, then you're good. And then you've got the meta description, which is a plain language description of your site that's talking to search engines. Remember, search engines don't have eyes, and they need to be told sort of what is this site about. And that's also true for images, where you give what's called like an image alt tag. So you actually can title your images with variations of the search terms you want to be visible for. And that's telling search engines what the image is about. And it's also giving you a little bit of a boost, so you can appear in like the image section of search results and so forth. So there's these areas that are in the head, and then the actual body is the text content, and the images fall into that. So that's on-site in a nutshell. Off-site SEO describes links coming into your website from other websites. And anytime you've ever clicked on a link that was embedded in text, so say you're reading text on some other poker website, and it says, and if you're interested, buy some poker card protectors, and that will make sure that your cards last as long as possible. And the words poker card protectors are an active link to your site. So while your URL may be www.buypokercardprotectors.com, if it's embedded in the term poker card protectors, then that's giving something called maybe like link juice, in the sense that the links pointing into your site are embedded in text, and that text boosts your website's SEO standings. And so offsite SEO is accumulating, hundreds of links from a variety, from different websites, and this can get really technical and like heady really quick, but websites are ranked with something called at least Google uses PR. So if you have like a PR 1 through I think 9 or 10, lowest is 1, 10 is highest in terms of authority. So it's just like if Donald Trump says, Brandon is the man to talk to about poker card protectors, you're gonna be like, oh fuck, he is the man. That's like a PR 10, right? Whereas if some bum on the street's like, oh, talk to Brandon about poker card protectors, and that's like PR 1, not very credible source.
Kind of sounds like Randy.
Randy's probably around a 4 or 5, right? Because you really need Randy at 4 in the morning when you're trying to get home. So he's got some authority.
Get a testimonial from Randy.
I should. That would be good.
Love you, Randy.
Yeah, if you're watching this, Randy, you're already a lifestyle entrepreneur.
We're going to hell.
Mobile.
So there's some really technical stuff that can make your eyes glaze over. If you just know that much alone, then you can go on Elance and say, here's a job description, I need a search engine optimization provider for my website. Then they'll do some research and come back with some suggestions for you. But if you've done a little bit of research yourself and found out, okay, what's the 10 or 15 search terms that have a high advertising competition and have a decent number of global monthly searches, then you can tell them, okay, well here's some of the main search terms that I want my site to rank for, And why don't you do some additional research on the variations, and then let's get an SEO strategy in place. So here's an outline for a good SEO strategy that you could hire somebody online for and what it would cost. In general, I've found on the low end, $250 to $300 a month will get you a team of Indian programmers where you'd probably want to give them the majority of the information, and then they're going to code it all into your site. And there's a few other things I didn't mention just for the sake of time that go into the on-site SEO, such as like a sitemap and some other things that search engines look for. But then after the first month or so of that engagement, the SEO engagement, say it's 3 to 4 months in length, the remaining months are mostly focused on building offsite SEO. Another way to say offsite SEO is inbound links to your site. So the lower end providers, like say, a really cheap Indian firm, is going to generate articles, publish them on article databases online that nobody actually really reads, but that has like a 500-word article with a link embedded in one of the search terms that you're targeting. Does that make sense? And then they're going to publish 200 or 300 of those a month. So now, okay, you've built up 200 or 300 inbound links to your site, but they're from low PR ranked sites that actual humans don't really read. But they're there, so it's better than nothing. So then a better SEO firm, or some of your own efforts, to build up the standing of your site, is to get inbound links to your site from higher and higher credibility sources. So if you can get, blogs that a lot of people read, and you can write a guest article and get that inbound link to your site embedded in a search term you want to rank for, then I don't know if there's a site called pokerplayer.com or something, but that would be a high credibility site. And if you had an article about really anything that had a link to your site embedded in poker card protectors, then that's going to help your standings fairly considerably. And so you could get, for a mid-tier, maybe $400 to $600 a month, you could get a pretty good SEO team. And the way this works is you want to get the on-site SEO coded as you press publish on your site, because as soon as the website goes live, then websites start to crawl it, or search engines crawl it and start to index it. And if you've got everything set up from the get-go, then there's something called a sandbox period before you start. You don't just publish your site and immediately jump to the top of the search results, but your site does get indexed, and then it starts to appear in search results depending on how well you've done your on-site SEO and whether you've already have inbound links and this off-site SEO in place. And so an SEO team is really good to have, because this isn't really stuff that you'd want to do yourself. If you're a really technical programmer type of guy, maybe you could do the on-site, but building 100 even inbound links a month is quite a bit of work. However, if you get 1 or 2 a month from high quality sources where you actually put in the effort to do a guest article or do an interview or something, and really the only thing you want from that is that link into your site embedded in a term you want to target for, that's something that, as an entrepreneur, is a good use of your time. Yeah.
Excuse me. Do you have a recommendation for a mechanism to find good SEO teams?
Well, Elance there's tons of SEO providers there. I know I say Elance a lot, but really I use them for so much stuff. It's kind of wild. I'm not sure. The other ones out there, I wouldn't do Odesk necessarily for SEO, but most of them, even if they are have their own standalone site about providing SEO services, they'll have somebody that's monitoring job posts on Elance, because that's where a lot of people go to find these types of services. Okay, did that also answer your question?
I guess there's just so many there that they've obviously got profiles. Price comes into it as well. I'd say you'd want to go a little bit higher end for something like that, unless you would disagree with that.
I think there's a sliding scale, and it's if you understand, like if everything I just said sounds like second nature to you, then you could go with a lower cost provider because you can give them more specific direction. But if you're like, SEO, what in the world is it? And you want a team that's going to do really good, then you'll probably want someone that's like native language English speaker, has sort of a copywriter or an article writer on staff that's going to write things that sound intelligible for the article publishing. And if they also say in their profile something, you know, we have relationships with, you know, PR 4, 5 or higher websites that we can get links into your site with, then those are all things that are like good. So this is an area where, you know, I'd probably recommend working with native English speaking teams, whereas Indian people can do like good technical work and programming, like they can do the on-site stuff really quickly and cheaply. But if you want to get established well, you know, just publishing stuff in obscure article databases with links in isn't necessarily going to win you the day.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Cool. Do you guys want, so if, let's say, let's just throw it out for the next 4 days, do you guys want more like tactical hands-on tips and strategies? Or do you want a couple more like conceptual frameworks that can help idea generation and carry out? Conceptual?
Because you could always sort of point us to like technical sites.
Yeah.
Than the conceptual, I think.
Okay, cool.
I would like some tactical stuff too, possibly just throw in there. I like just learning about SEO stuff, so maybe if you could pepper that in too.
Yeah. Yeah, SEO is cool because, you know, it's really SEO and AdWords work hand in hand. And there's a section in the book called like the Go Live strategy, I think. And it's basically saying that once you know the space that you're targeting, and something like a poker site is pretty easy to, or even a dog, you know, collar site. Actually, lots of the ideas we've talked about in here. A health and fitness focused site on diet, like for vegan foods. All these things, it's pretty easy to know where you're targeting. And then if you have the basket of search terms that you want to rank for, that you've checked, there's global monthly searches, there's high advertising competition, then you have, let's say, an ad campaign we haven't talked about yet, so that's something I'll talk about in the next 4 days. But getting, let's say, an AdWords campaign or a Facebook ads campaign or some other pay-per-click strategy so that when you launch, you can actually start sending traffic to your site. Well, you're really targeting the same terms. So the things that you'd want to rank for SEO, say poker card protectors, well, then you'd also have an ad that's built around poker card protectors that's driving traffic to your site and targeting those same terms that you want to rank for. Now, I know no search engine will like admit it, and I don't know if it's actually the case, but I can't help but think that if you're advertising for a basket of terms and your site is all speaking to those same terms, that it probably gives a little extra bump because it shows a cohesive strategy in how you're trying to get your website out there and get it ranked. So if nothing else, just having traffic go into your site helps your SEO. And it also helps your business. So if you just publish your website and you have a comprehensive SEO strategy, you may not be getting site traffic off the bat. So you need to start sending people there through one form or another. And in a business-focused site, you know, direct advertising will start to give you your conversion numbers quickly of how much am I spending per lead, how much am I spending per click, how much am I spending per customer acquisition. And since you know your gross margin and your percentage, you can then put a figure on how much you're willing to spend per lead, per customer, and try and improve those ratios, but at least know your limit so that you're not losing money per sale, at least not for a long time if you're just coming out of the gate with it. You see what I mean?
There's a quick one. Like me and Intrigue and Zach went to this seminar, SEO seminar in Austin. There's this guy called an SEO rapper. You look it up. This guy, no, seriously, he's really good. He does SEO and he was a rapper and he combined them. And to learn the terms in a really easy way, it's like really catchy. Like he did a rap and he's on YouTube with like 1 million hits, so that might help.
Not bad. I never heard of him.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
I bet he's also got good SEO.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I know got to get you guys out of here soon, but any other questions today? Okay, cool. Office hours at 8. And if anybody has specific questions or wants me to go over stuff in the next 4 days of lectures, either ping me on WhatsApp or just come up and tell me, and I'll formulate the stuff I talk about in the next 4 days to try and get as much information that you guys want into your brains. So there you have it. Thanks.